Hey guys, Moose here. Welcome back to Stonehearth in our Ascendancy playthrough, and today is a very special day. Not just because at the end of the last episode we finally got our little maze working, but also because on this day in 1995, which is 22 years ago now, I believe, if I did that math correctly, Star Wars Dark Forces came out for MS-DOS. Now, if you're not familiar with this series, which you could be forgiven for being not familiar with, if that anything I just said made any sense whatsoever, you could be forgiven for not being familiar with it. This is basically like, imagine if you took Doom and made it a bit more fleshed out, like it had RPG mechanics, and I don't know if Dark Forces did. I mainly played Dark Forces 2 and... whoa, what was the other one? There are a few of them. Kind of leading into, I think, Jedi Academy and some of those games, but Dark Forces 2 was the one I mainly played, and then there was one that came right after that, which had to do something with the Sith, I forget. But Dark Forces was like basically Doom in the Star Wars universe with story and stuff, and it was a very, very cool series. I really, really enjoyed it. It was one of the first-person shooters that I ever played. And it was part of what got me into the Star Wars universe, I think. The movies themselves didn't really do it for me. The aliens in the Star Wars movies scared the shit out of me for a very long time. The cantina scene was horrifying. Traumatized me a little bit. I couldn't watch it as a young child, because I am a gigantic pussy. But being able to play this, and I think there was like there was this interesting, I should have mentioned it in the last episode probably, but there was a Star Wars flight sim that I played too. I forget what it was called, but it was one of the older ones. It had a canyon run. I mean, they all have a canyon run, but it was not something I was good at. I don't think I got past one of the first couple levels, so I started my career of not finishing any of the games that I buy very early, even though that wasn't one that I bought. It was bought for me, probably by parents. But it was really cool. Dark Forces was, or Dark Forces 2 is fantastic, and then there was, that was, Kyle Katarn was in them, right? Like, that was the protagonist, or was it a completely different series that was the same thing that I'm not remembering correctly? I totally cannot remember. Shit, which one was it? Yeah, see, now I have, like, no memory. But I know I definitely played Dark Forces 2, and I think that was Kyle Katarn was the protagonist, and then he had, I think it was Mara Jade was his buddy, who eventually went on to become, in some versions of Star Wars, the wife or partner of Luke Skywalker, and mother of their children, I think. And she had a whole bunch of her own shit going on, but she had a cool looking ship, which was, of course, it's Star Wars, you gotta have a cool looking ship. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then, like I said, that kind of like turned into, you know, Jedi Academy and all that stuff, and all those games that had actually wound up having some pretty cool lightsaber combat in them as well. And there's a lot of things about that series and those games that was fucking cool as hell that I really enjoyed. And Dark Forces 2 in particular, though that's not the one that came out today. Dark Forces, the original one, was the one that came out today. But Dark Forces 2 was a really cool shooter. And it was, like, I wish we had more like that these days, where it's a really, really well fleshed out single-player game with secrets and pickups and, like, interesting levels where you had to go to different places and do different things. And it wasn't really, maybe calling it puzzles is a little bit over the top. There wasn't really puzzles, it was more... yeah, I guess kind of puzzles. Yeah, puzzles is the only word I can really think of to describe it. But not in the way that you'd think of puzzles in a modern gaming sense. It wasn't really like that. It was more, here's your objective, we're not going to tell you how to do it, and there's a few different small tasks that you have to do prior to being able to actually do what you're trying to do, so figure it out. It's more that kind of thing. They're like a older school game where they just don't spell anything out for you. It's that kind of thing. It was a hell of a lot of fun. I enjoyed the shit out of it. There's a lot of different levels and different stories, and they actually had live-action cutscenes, I think, for Dark Forces 2. Which is like an old school gaming thing that doesn't really happen anymore. you had a lot of that, like, the only... Does Red Alert still do that? Does the Command and Conquer series still have really cheesy, over-the-top, live-action cutscenes? Really hope it does. One of my loss of innocence moments was watching, what are that, in the first Red Alert, whatever that woman, of course, they're always, the Russian side always has some sexy Russian woman. Naturally, because of course they do. Well, both sides do. You got Tanya for the Americans, and then you've got whoever else for, I forget, for the Russians, but, you know, watching her fuck Stalin. I mean, not actually fuck. There wasn't actually a sex scene in Red Alert, but, you know, they're in robes, and the implication is that they were, you know, procreating, or having intercourse, I guess is the correct way of putting it. I sincerely doubt they were attempting to have a child, so I guess that was the wrong word. But you got the idea, they were banging. That was the implication as I saw it from that scene, and eventually she kills him, which is funny. But yeah, you get to watch Stalin get laid if you watch the Red Alert cutscenes. That was an interesting moment in my childhood. Another good one, you know, MechWarrior never had good live-action cutscenes. I've seen one intro that had kind of live-action stuff, and it just looks stupid to me. I know I probably pissed some people off in saying that, but it just never looked that good to me. But Dark Forces 2 had some good ones. There was one with, like, there was a Sith apprentice or something, and you kick his ass, and then he gets, like, UFO'd into the ceiling. It was really weird. All of his shit was yellow. That was a weird one. I think that was on a Imperial base or something that you were attacking. I don't remember. And then Kyle Katarn looks like he's played by the guy who played Riker in Star Trek The Next Generation, which is an interesting situation considering the age-old Star Wars versus Star Trek situation, which is not really a rivalry. I don't think it's a little different from that. But nonetheless, it's funny and interesting. You're going to repair this, right? And you're going to repair the other two? No, you're actually going all the way out here for some reason. I don't know what you're doing. What are you doing? What the fuck was that? What's in your backpack? It's not showing what's in your... You just picked, like, there was jerky or something out there. I don't know what the fuck that was about. It was so weird. Archer just waltzes up like, fuck you, bitch. I'm gonna kill you. Worked out. Very weird. Very, very weird. Alright, well, we'll send a few more people out here unnecessarily. Cancel the military's orders. You guys don't need to be out there. Oh good, she's fixing them up. Bit by bit. Wish they had a bit more HP, and I wish they wouldn't get targeted so directly. It kind of makes them a pain to use because it's kind of a waste of resources for the most part. But shouldn't you be making stuff? You're supposed to be crafting. Weird. We're actually getting pretty close to this 45th person. That's pretty awesome. I like that she's got this kind of maintenance trench here. But yeah, getting back to Dark Forces, there's a lot of things I miss about that game. That's probably one of the few games where I'd probably consider going back and playing it. It was just a really good series. All through. I don't think it had a bad game. There's another one that I played after that. It had a multiplayer, actually, where you could be, you know, run around as a Jedi and slice and dice people, and that was fun. But I preferred the single player, personally. Not really for the story. It was just like, it felt good. Oh, and I actually... Oh, that was one of my favorite things. There's a strategy guide. You know, back in the day, you'd get, instead of game facts or any of that, you'd get strategy guides for games. And I was a kid and I didn't really know what I was doing, and I wanted to beat the games I played. So there's certain games that I'd buy the strategy guides for. So I had a number of Command and Conquer ones, which I didn't really do much with, and they weren't particularly good. It was just whatever, $20 book that you buy that tells you how to play the game. But I think I got one for Dark Forces. I think I still have it too, actually. I should pull that out. Just weird as hell. There's a lot of stuff in it, and all the secrets and things, or at least most of them anyway. I don't know if you never really know if you're getting everything. Wow, that guy got fucked. April, not April. You're gonna get wrecked too. I'll pick them up. These guys are gonna get destroyed the second they come down the ladder. In fact, I'm not even gonna let them come down the ladder. Go wreck their shit. Okay, no healers, it's one of the ogre and archer waves, so just deal with that easily. But yeah, so when I remember reading it, and I found this hilarious as a kid. It was my favorite little thing in the whole book. It would say, like, there's one part where I think it's it might actually be the first mission. You're running around an event. You trying to escape or something, and you run up and you get an event. And you run into an enemy in the event, and it's saying like, hey, kill him. You need to kill this guy to continue. So instead of saying take him out or anything like that, it says ventilate the Rhodian. Which, for whatever reason, as a kid, I thought was absolutely hilarious. It's like, he's an event and you kill him, so you're ventilating him. That's what it means when you kill him, you ventilate him. It's the dumbest thing, but it still sticks in my mind as hilarious for some idiotic reason. Why is the combat music still playing? It's very strange. But yeah, I love that. I love that phrase for whatever reason. I still don't really understand it. And I also don't understand why the hell, out of all the things from my childhood, that's something that I remember. But I bet, you know what? It's probably even in my dresser. I have one drawer in my dresser that's like game manuals and old, basically just papers for the most part. But there's a lot of the, I know for sure at least some of the Prima, I don't know if it was Prima, but it was one of the black and yellow colored strategy guides from way, way back, like mid-90s. And I think a lot of them are still in there. I'm pretty sure the Command and Conquer ones are. And a few thinner ones, I can't recall. I think the original Command and Conquer one was like it was like almost a textbook. It was awesome. I don't remember how big the Dark Forces ones were. It might have been big, I can't recall. But I'm definitely like, that's first thing after I finish recording this video, I'm gonna go back and take a look. I'm probably not gonna do it, but I might, like, if there's interest, I'll take a picture of it and show it off a little bit, because it's a fun piece of history. It's pretty beat up at this point. Like, I didn't really take good care of it, but it's there. And this has nothing to do with send our military over here to heal this lady up. This has nothing to do with like collectability. I wasn't thinking about it in that way, but I actually have some old, I believe, Star Trek action figures from when I was, there was like a Christmas gift when I was a kid and I just never opened them. And I forget why, and they're still just kind of sitting in my parents' garage unopened. And I have no idea why I didn't open them. It had nothing to do with like, oh, I need to preserve the value. It was just like, yeah, that's cool, but I don't really care anymore, so I'm just not going to open them. And they're sitting there, and I got no idea why. They're just a box in the garage. So, I have a lot of old shit like that. Just absolute nerdy as fuck shit that there's no reason for me to have it, really. But I do. Don't know why I never got rid of the strategy guides, but it's kind of cool. I think it's cool that I still have them. They're fun. They're at least interesting. And a lot of that's going to be cropping up. I'm going to start seeing them again, because when I go move, I'm going to notice it and be like, hey, where'd this come from? Didn't know I still had this. Oh, wow. They're fucking shit up. Yeah, the archer waves really ruin this strategy. It does not work as well as I'd like here. They're messing them up pretty good, but it's not enough to really win, I guess, is the way to put it. And the problem is we're not really getting steel ingots back, but we're not getting iron. And that's really an issue. Because we're gonna run out of, yeah, we need to get iron. Yeah, these guys are okay. You guys clearly cannot be trusted, so... Military, you gonna listen to orders now? No? You don't want to? That's fine. Oh, this did get mined out. Alright, we should go get more clay now. Totally forgot about that. This did as well, right? Yeah, clerics should not be doing what they're doing there. That's okay. Okay. What the fuck happened here? It's just This looks like such a mess. Alright, well, I think we got everything. Yep. Seems as though we did. Okay, that kind of messed everything up. Alright. So yeah, this by the way, this episode is kind of exactly what I was hoping for when I kind of thought up, like, hey, I should format my videos this way. This was the plan. This was what I wanted to get to. Those games that, like, I never think of on their own, but in the, you know, I start putting it in the context of all this other stuff and having it come up as a result of a release date that doesn't matter if it was 20 years ago or 5 years ago, it's still going to be in that list. If it was on Wikipedia anyway. Which I still need to work on expanding it, but which is in process, but a very difficult thing to do now that I've kind of gotten through the easy stuff, so it'll take some time, but I'm working on it. This is what I wanted. I wanted to find those games from my past that's like, hey, I played it, oh man, I grew up with that, I love that, and I couldn't remember, I didn't remember it, and it's so cool to see it again and think about it and talk about it. That's the best part of this, and it's sort of revisiting, not really nostalgia. I don't really want to say, hey, oh, this is on Steam, you should go out and buy it. No, it's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm getting at is it's just like, it's fun. It's fun to remember these games from the past that were big and like influenced how I see video games these days and impact who I am, not as a person, but how I view, you know, if I go play an FPS, how am I going to perceive it? Like what issues am I going to have with it? Perhaps because it doesn't really succeed in the same ways that some of the games that I loved growing up did. And it's a lot of fun to go through that and kind of see all the different things. And you know, one thing that I really miss is I really liked how a lot of the old school FPSs kind of flowed and the movement was very fluid, you know, like Half-Life movement, basically, where you can kind of do whatever the fuck you want. There's no momentum or anything, you just kind of flow. And if you want to, like, do this weird motion where you kind of go back and forth, you can, and you have total control. Like, it feels like you have control. You're not fighting against physics to move the way you want. I enjoy that. And then combining that with sort of the, like, hey, here's a level, which basically amounts to a sandbox. There's an objective at the end, but just kind of look around and explore and see all these things around it. And I think maybe Dishonored kind of is the modern equivalent of that. But Dishonored even, I feel, is a little bit too directed, I guess. I feel like in Dark Forces it was very, very fluid in that you just kind of like went wherever, and you might do some backtracking depending on how the story went for that level and different things like that, trying to solve these little puzzles to open things. I don't know, when it was simpler, it just felt better, I guess. I don't know. Like, I don't really have much desire. Like, I have much more desire to go back and play Dark Forces 2 than I do to go play something like Dishonored 2 or even Dishonored. It doesn't appeal to me in the same way. And I can't really tell you why. I don't know why, and it doesn't really make that much sense to me. But that's genuinely how I feel about it, so I don't know. It's weird. Very, very weird, but I will possibly be going back and playing that game. I'm probably at least going to flip through the strategy guide and see like, hey, look, why the hell did I need this? I was so stupid. It's a waste of money, but it's also, you know, it's a waste of money, but it's also a memory, if you want to put it that way. So, I don't know. I don't really regret it. Would it be nice to have the $40 counting inflation that accounts for now? Probably. Yeah, sure. Does it really matter? No. It's not that big of a deal. So, it's fine. Anyway, that is going to have to do it for today's episode. So, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will take a look at the Dark Forces series and hopefully see some of it. At least go watch some of the live action cutscenes. They're kind of funny. I don't know if Dark Forces had it, but Dark Forces 2 I think did. Or at least one of the games in that kind of general series had it. It was pretty funny. So yeah, take a look. anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join us for the next episode as well. Take care.